Hello again, everyone. Today in this video, we're talking about finding the missing hypotenuse. The last video we were finding the missing leg, so we were finding A here. We also on this one didn't have our hypotenuse, so that'll actually be an extra thing. If we need extra practice, we're going to talk about this when we're finding hypotenuse. We're working with a slightly different one for this example, where in this example we're given the side of little a, which is 140 centimeters, and we're given angle B, which is 62 degrees. We don't have a little b, but we're not worried about that because we want to find the hypotenuse, which in this case the hypotenuse is little c, which it's usually going to be little c because the right angle tends to be big C, and the right angle always opens up to the hypotenuse, which also means the hypotenuse is always going to be the longest side. So we want to find C. So we're going to set up this equation. We have the side that is right next to B. So that means for this equation, we're going to be using the cosine function. We use the cosine function. So formula for that, it's cosine. We're looking at angle B, so it's going to be cosine of B. And cosine of B, the adjacent side is our A, which I'm going to highlight in green. And our, this should be little a there. And that's going to be over hypotenuse, which I'm going to highlight in C. Now, we want to find C. We don't know what C is, but we do know what angle B is. We know it's 62 degrees. We do know what side A is. It's 140 degrees, so we're going to go ahead and do some substitution. Cosine of B, and I'm going to make that angle measure, it's going to be blue in this. So our angle measure will be 62. So that's angle B. Just change it out. E is equal to our side A, which is 140, divided by C. Now, what is trickier about finding the hypotenuse, or really finding anything that's in the denominator, is that we can't set something equal to something that's in the denominator. Because up here we had a convenient piece. The convenient thing about this was that our variable that we wanted to find, that side A, was in the numerator. But in this case, we don't have that in the numerator. It's in the denominator here. So what we're going to do is we need to get that C out of the denominator to start. Since that C is in the denominator, the only way to get it out, the only way to cancel it out, is by doing the opposite operation. We're dividing by C here, so that means just like in the other where we multiply both sides by 150, we're going to multiply this side by C. This will cancel out the C's that are on this side. What we do to one side, we also have to do to the other, so we need to multiply this side by C as well. Now, what this leaves behind, it leaves behind 140 on this side. And on this side, we end up with C times our cosine of 62. Close that parenthesis. So we still have the C here, and that's what we want to find. We want to solve that C. So to be able to do that, we need to get C by itself. It's currently being multiplied by the cosine of 62. We want to get C by itself, so we're going to divide by the cosine of 62. Divide this out, that's going to cancel out. But what we do to one side, we also have to do to the other. So we're going to divide by the cosine of 62 over here. Now plugging that into the calculator, pull up the calculator again. 140 in the numerator, dividing by our cosine of 62. So again, that cosine's right next to the tangent button that we used in the last video. Cosine of 60, oh sorry, guess so you can see that. Cosine button right here. 140 divided by cosine of 62. Don't hit that plus sign. Hit enter. That's going to give us a value of 298.2076255. And again, we're going to round to that nearest hundredth. So if I cancel out the cosines of 62 here, that leaves behind a C. That is going to be equal to our answer of 298. And I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth. To the right of that 0 is a 7. That is greater 5 or greater, so we're going to round it up, so it's going to be 0.21 on that. And that's going to be the value of C, which also, again, we're working in centimeters over here. So I'm going to go and write that as 298.71 centimeters. And that would be our final answer. So the key things you want to make sure when you're solving for something in the denominator, you have to get out of the denominator first, which is why we do that first multiplication by C to move it over to the other side. That gets it out of the denominator. The second piece that we need to do is we need to get the C by itself. So we're going to divide by the cosine of 62 here. That cancels that out. What we do to one side, we also have to do to the other. So we're going to divide by the cosine of 62 here. Plug it into the calculator because it's at 298.21. I wrote 271 down here. It should be 21. So 298.21 centimeters. So remember, before you can solve for a variable, it has to be out of the denominator. If you have any questions, please ask in class.